retired judges would serve and work with us. We've gone from 18 judicial hearing officers to 6. We no longer have any parent education programs, and we're going to feel this. Our parent education programs were programs where we had lawyers and social workers explaining to families who were in custody battles the realities of what a custody battle does to their child, the realities of how talking negatively about one parent to the other parent hurts the child. It was critically important to have these lessons to parents so they understood what their child is going through anytime they have a custody or visitation battle. That program is gone as a result of our budget cuts. And our children's centers, families who came to court and had no child care for children, we had a thriving, vibrant children's center that was an all-day program. As an aside, I saw in the Daily News, they highlighted our Bronx Family Courts Children's Center this last Friday in an article talking about how wonderful it was. All of our children's centers have reduced their hours. Thank God they were going to close them all, but they're not closed, but they have reduced hours, which creates a problem. What are we going to do with the children when their parents come? They can't come to the courtroom generally and be part of the court process, and they can't we don't have staff to watch them in the hallways as well. So we're suffering because of that. At the time of these budget cuts in April of 2011, I described myself as being in the middle of the most challenging and sad professional season of my life. And that was true. I was just sad. It was just so unfortunate to see what was happening to our court and what was happening to the children and families we served. But I found that I was far less effective as a leader to be sad. So I'm not sad anymore, okay? But I do find that the situation remains a big challenge for me. We are an under-resourced court and we are an overburdened court. But because we serve poor people, because the majority of people that we serve are people of color, that does not mean that we are an inferior court. And I need to make that point every single time I speak. The work we do in family court, I say we do superior work in the family court despite being under-resourced. And the terrible shame and secret of family court, in my opinion, is the fact that even when we were resourced, we weren't in a budget crisis forever. There were flush times. We were still an under-resourced court that didn't have what we deserved to have, and that's unfortunate. So these challenges have presented a big blow to the morale of people who are serving in the family court, because it was difficult to do this very challenging work even when there wasn't a budget crisis. And the sad news is we're not out of it. It wasn't just a one-year thing and it's over. I'm hearing very grim rumblings about this upcoming budget season we're facing. So, in creating the title of this program, I did something sneaky. Let me look at the title. Doing More with Less, the effective budget cuts on the New York City family court system and the Latino families we serve. I presented that title, or I suggested that title of Doing More with Less, with the full realization that I absolutely do not believe that you can ever do more with less. So when people are giving you the message, you can do more with less, you can do more with less, you cannot do more with less. You cannot. You tell them it's not believing the truth. It gets me in trouble all the time. This nasty habit of doing honesty. You can't do more with less. You do less with less. That doesn't mean that you don't still have the zeal in your heart to do God's work, to do the very best you can with the resources at your disposal, to think more creatively, to perhaps become more efficient, which we have in family court. One of the lessons we've learned recently is that even though, unfortunately, our time frames are going out, if it took 3-6 months to get a court date, it's not going to take 9 months to a year, and that is unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but what we are also realizing is, and I'll aim at lawyers because they're my easy targets, and there are a few that I know in the room, they love me, so they'll let me get away with it. The lawyers are doing a better job, okay? They're coming to court prepared now because they know that there's a limited time frame. They can't play. If they want their cases to be done, they've got to be sure. And so we're actually seeing some improvements in some areas as a result of our challenges. So I'm going to conclude with ending my remarks by doing something I do all the time. Folks at family court who actually work, they don't know how I brag on them everywhere they go. So if you see one or two court, as well as those who appear. And there are a few of you, I see familiar faces who appear before me, those who appear in our courts, and all who have enabled us to provide the best service possible we can in the circumstances we face. Our family court personnel, those on the front lines, assisting those in need, those who guard our hallways, our court officers, those who protect our courtrooms, those who are at the system room window taking information from the disgruntled litigant who wants their day in court. Everyone who works in a family court recognizes that we're dealing with very serious issues in family court. Decisions that we make at every step of the way can literally mean the difference in life and death. When I was a judge, when I was more a real judge, like I say, and less a judge who's an administrator, and I do still have a calendar of Queens Family Court on many Thursdays, so I'm grateful for that, because lawyers will keep you real. But when I was a full-time judge serving in Queens Family Court, handling child abuse and neglect cases, I had cases that with children who appeared before me. I've made decisions where one decision resulted, I decided to send a particular child back home to a parent. This has happened to me more than once, unfortunately, that a parent will complete the services, everybody agrees it's time for the children to come home, and the children are killed. I've had children who I've made decisions who have been killed, and I carry that with me. I don't blame myself. No more than a caseworker should blame him or herself if a child dies while under their watch. But I've also had children who I've placed in foster care who were killed. So, you know, the decisions that we make are their life and death, and we never, ever should take that for granted. I just want you to know that the judges and everyone else who work in the family court can never take the responsibilities that we have lately. So I thank you for the opportunity to speak with you and to meet you, and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Judge, I want to thank you so much. As you were wrapping up, I was thinking, this is just like so clear. You have to have a humanizing effect on the judicial system. You totally embody being a human being, and that's what we need, and that's what social work is about, and that's what we very much have in common. So this is just really a pleasure. So thank you for joining us. We are so much on time, which is great. Our speaker for 1 o'clock, who I'll introduce when he arrives, is not here yet. And he's at the beck and call of Congressman Ed Towns, Special Assistant. So Charles Lewis, I don't think is here yet. And so because we have a few minutes, if anybody would like to ask Judge any questions, or if you have some comments about the child welfare system, I would ask you to come up. We can take a few questions. And if our speaker has not arrived, we will move on with the program. So please feel free to come up to the microphone. Yes, I'm sure a little bit of hearing from those of you who are in the audience will have a lot to be able to share with us.
Good afternoon. My name is Dorothy Worrell. I'm the Executive Director of Fallen Valley, a child welfare provider. One of my questions, I'm always referring the grandparents back to, but you have an attorney. You have an attorney. Your attorney should be advocating for you in court. And, you know, given all that you just said about the resources, what can we do, what can you do to make sure that our parents really are getting good representation in court?
That's an important question, and I served as 10 years representing parents and children in family court, so I was one of those attorneys that you were telling the parents, go talk to your attorney. There are challenges in representing parents in family court proceedings, and the role of a lawyer is twofold. Most people, when they think of a lawyer, is as someone who goes into court and zealously advocates objection, no rule, that kind of thing. And that's true. That is an important and critical role of an attorney. But the most important part of the job for an attorney who serves parents who are serving who are in family court is that of a counselor. And you were supposed to advise your client what their rights are, what their responsibilities are. And I realized as an attorney that the greatest impact that I had was in counseling my clients on the court process and the realities they were facing, what they could do to succeed in a family court case. We do have, in each of the family courts, there is still a vibrant assigned counsel plan. Thank goodness. That hasn't been cut. So the ability for every parent who's involved in the child welfare system to have an attorney, either an institutional provider attorney like the Center for Family Representation or Bronx Defenders, or a member of the assigned counsel 18B panel. I will tell you the other flip side of the story that you might find familiar because if you're the head of an agency, you know this. Parents are sometimes not reliable. I cannot tell you, I set aside every single lunch hour for a parent-client meeting, and I only met with parents maybe once a month during my lunch hour because oftentimes parents didn't appear and recognize how important it was. So it may be like they're seeking help from you because they will come to the agency and you're like, well, why didn't you talk to your attorney about that? Just don't assume that the attorney hasn't tried to reach out to the parent to engage them. You might want to, just help your clients in a better way by telling them, giving them things like telling them how to handle a calendar, appointments, and how important appointments are. And make sure they can tell you the name and telephone number of their attorney. That's one of the keys. You can tell them to talk to their attorney. If they don't know their attorney's name, that means that they don't know who their attorney is, and their attorney may be reaching out to them, but not be able to. So you can keep and if you need the information, you can contact my office. I just Google the family courts and you can reach me. There's a way to find out who's the attorney for each parent that you're dealing with. So if even they don't know who their attorney is, there's a way to find that out, and if you need to know that. So the best way to help parents who are still in the family court process is to make sure they're keeping all their appointments and they're making the time to enable their attorneys to help them.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ryan. And one question I have, well, two. What about the language barrier a lot of families have regarding communicating with the attorney? And since the psychoeducation courses or workshops are going, how is families being referred to parenting or in management or any of those services?
That's a very, very important point you hit upon. One of the areas where we're having difficulty is even in terms of having court interpreters available for all of the families that we serve. We have a certain number of Spanish language interpreters on staff, and I'll tell you one of our Spanish interpreter leaders, one of the managers of our Brooklyn office was suffering as a result of the layoffs. We lost a management level person for a court interpreter. But there are language interpreters available in all the family courts in almost every language you can think of, but the availability, sometimes cases are delayed because there are too many courtrooms to go to and not enough interpreters. And even though an interpreter will be available in court to interpret during the court process, that's not an interpreter who's available to assist the parent and the client. The attorney is required to hire, and there are resources for that for assigned counsel attorneys. They're required to hire an interpreter to meet their client. So language is a barrier, but there are ways to overcome that. There are resources for that. And in terms of programs, the wait list for the programs that are very, very long, and there are very few programs in languages other than English. There's such a small pot of those few, and the competition and the waiting lists are very long. It's just a matter of advocacy, and where everybody is fighting for the same very small pot of resources. We're feeling it though.
And because every day the judges are saying family management, parenting, mental balance, but nobody's doing it in classes in their language.
Right, and that's a problem. And there's very few that exist. It's a problem.
Good afternoon. My name is Sandy Salas. I'm a child protective specialist supervisor in the Bronx. I would like to thank you for acknowledging the work that CPS do and our non-responsibility when a child gets killed on our caseload. I'm hoping that our new commissioner, who's also a judge, brings the same insight to ACS as you have brought to us this afternoon. Thank you.
We're going to move on with the program now. This is really wonderful that we could take some questions. At this point, I want to do an assessment. I want to see if we can move up the program. What is scheduled for 1:30, it's now 1:05. And it's a question of whether our panelists are here at this point. And is Zuleika Cabrera-Tremaine in the room? I don't see her. She's here, but I don't see her. Okay, so Zuleika will come in and she's going to